Okay, so in this video, we're going to be making a tier list, a very early on tier list, basically after day one, once now that I've actually done Fierce Battle. So Fierce Battle is essentially the endgame mode that we're going to be basing ourselves off of for this tier list. And there's two main components that we're going to have to check out in game right now. And those two components lie in well, also having two teams, so you have to use 8 units, by the way, so keep that in mind. I've been talking to people who've like gotten past 10 already. I could do 7. I just left because I was like, I'll record some videos now, because I kind of got the gist of what I needed to get. So basically, you need two things. No one dies, and also you clear quick enough. So with those two things in mind, that's what the tier list is going to be based off of. Now, certain things that I'm going to keep in mind is number 1, 4 stars are going to count as having 2 dupes. So that's going to be number 1. And then also, which, I mean, let's just say it does help Hoshina quite a lot. That 20% crit rate's crazy. But then also, we're going to be counting 5 stars with their weapons, and I mean, it's going to be good for Kaiju still because he doesn't need the weapon. Why am I doing that? Because, I mean, you know, for the most part, the 5 stars you get, what's great is that if you get dupes, for example, then you're going to be able at some point to just trade in the weapon. So even if you don't have it, it's fine. It doesn't make a big difference. I'm just putting that as a little point. Like, it's not really that important, especially because we're also going to be using 4 stars in our teams. I think you're going to be chilling, but you know, for the 5 stars you do have, it's not going to be super hard to get the weapons. And thankfully, there is the exchange shop that lets you choose, if you get a dupe of the same weapon, that lets you choose the weapon of your choosing for all the standard units, which I think is a very neat point. So let's get to it. We're just going to start right away. I don't really see any reason not to. And let's start with S tier, right? So I can't move it. I forgot. So let's not move this. We're going to start with Reno. He's just too good, right? This guy's too good. I don't know, like, it's insane. I'm very happy he's good because obviously of the what's it called? He was in the anime episode, so perfect timing, and it made me like want to watch season 2. Usually, I like to save like the full binge amount unless it's very hype for me. But I was like, you know what? Reno like just kind of brought back memories of me reading the manga. Let me actually go watch it, and I'm like enjoying myself. So basically, why so good? That crit rate bonus is very strong alongside the adjacent damage is huge for him too. It's very big. His thing basically is that he gets the SP whenever he uses his combat skill, or he has a chance to get the SP. So he could use it and then get it back, which is huge. Now another thing is this skill 2 damage is insane, right? 200% on this level, well, level 2. Just want to say, like, Kafka's is 140. Now, yes, he does have the 1 tap, but it's like surprisingly close to an ult damage amount, right? And I feel like I could find an ult damage that is similar to 200%, which is kind of funny. Like, look at this, 159. Yes, this is adjacent. However, we're saying that Reno's skill 2 is just doing 200%. So this is like where his bread and butter is in the skill 2. But then his ult freezes, right? Delays action turn, obviously stuns. And then does the extra dot damage, right? Which is huge. And then he also does this with the ice crystal, which I actually think is really nice with the basically follow-up stuff. So there's a lot of good stuff that he does, but that stun basically is the bread and butter, and it's adjacent, so you're basically able to get somewhat of an AoE kind of going for that. So very good. Next stuff, Kaiju number 8. I mean, do I really need to explain? He has very high stats without needing a weapon or gear, because obviously they kind of scaled it up. He does insane damage, and also he does have some like tanking in his kit and taunting. So it's like he's all around very good, and that 1 tap ability on that skill 2 is insane, right? It's actually really good for Fierce Battle 2. You get them low enough and then Kaiju just goes bop bop bop. So like how you could do it is just like kind of chip away everyone, and then Kaiju does the finishing blow on them if they're below 50%. Obviously it has to be a minion, but still I think it's very good. Now third of all, Isao is more for that, making sure no one dies. It's absolutely crazy. Like, he is very good. He's going to be giving an AoE shield on his skill 2, and then on his ult he does very big boy damage while also applying damage reduction on that ult. And for the shields, as long as there's shields up, he gives basically a permanent 10% damage boost to the team, and I think it could get way higher if I'm being honest. I think so. Yeah. Oh dude, yeah, this is gonna be crazy. Like, for every shield on an ally you get 3.4, right? So that goes up to technically like 9%, 9.6%, but then it's going to go up a lot higher than that. So yeah, I think that having a permanent damage boost as long as the shields rep is actually very good. So that makes up S tier, right? Those are the three kind of units I feel like are basically just reigning right now. Now, besides that, we have 5 really good units in A tier. S and A are, in my opinion, meta, and then B are units you can use. C and D are kind of meh, right? So Kikoru is insanely good right now. Personally, I really like how she works with her skill 2. The adjacent damage feels very, very good to actually use. But more than that, her ult applies a debuff. So even as like a kind of main or sub DPS, she's giving that defense lower, which is really, really big. But then she has some good buffs for herself, and the effect hit rate is actually very strong. So to make sure she applies that debuff, because obviously enemies could have effect like the hit rate resist, right? I forgot the exact name. Effect res, yes. So it's like she is actually doing very good damage, and then didn't mean to press that, with her ult doing the debuff. It's good, right? Having the adjacent skill on the skill 2 gives her a lot of kind of leeway to do a lot of good stuff in many different teams. Now, personally, I think she's more of an end game or like kind of boss unit. So like there's specific niche uses, but she does work very well because she obviously is against bosses. You want to use her because she does more damage against giant class Kaiju. So that's definitely going to be the way to go. But she's going to be kind of like a DPS that can't really die in a way because she has some good damage reduction. But basically, she doesn't need to be built with crit rate, which is actually very nice because when you have the max stacks of focus, we see right here, she gets 100% crit rate. Now, yes, it's for 1 turn, but if you play around that, then you just ult with that and you don't really need to do much else. And the other thing is, she works to where you don't really need the crit rate besides that because she buffs or she uses her skill 1. So basically, whenever she's really doing damage, it's going to be revolving around this ult. And it's definitely going to be quite high damage against actual bosses. So there is that, right? And you could build up the focus by using the normal or combat skill. So then afterwards, after 3, then you're going to be able to use the ult, right? And then, you know, it's going to go pretty well with that. So yeah, I definitely think her damage is quite good, especially when we're fighting bosses and there are bosses in the fierce battle. So there is that. Now, next up, I think Narumi is actually really good. Narumi having that double type advantage with slash and shot is just insane. His damage isn't the highest, but because of the double type advantage, it's very good. And he's going to be able to do kind of attacks pretty quick, right? He has some good buffs too. So it's like, it's not horrible. I think that double type advantage saves him. And also because he has the adjacent on both the skill 2 and the ult, it's going to be very good to kind of doing that AoE damage. I actually think it's quite nice, right? It is actually quite nice how he's going to kind of work with that. And like this, I think is actually quite neat to where he gets the speed boost whenever his ult gauge is less than 50. So he's going to be kind of speeding up and then afterwards he ults and then he speeds up again. So I actually personally really like it. And of course he does extra damage when they are in break. So it's like 20%, then 20% here on ult, right? You could get an easy 40% extra on this ult, and that is kind of crazy to think about. So that's it, I think, for the 4 stars in A tier. Now we're going to get on to the 2 best, the 5 stars, I mean. Now we're going to get on to the 2 best 4 stars, and it's gonna start with Minase. Now, why exactly? Because she's a healer. So as a healer, she's going to have some very good things that she is going to be doing. And just once you get her to a high enough HP amount, especially with gear, she's basically going to be keeping the whole team alive. And you really want to have her in some of the later floors of Fierce Battle. Like, that's something to keep in mind, is that she's going to be doing some very good things in terms of healing. And as the only healer in the game so far, she does have that specific value. And what's great is this specifically. Whenever you don't need to heal, you're saving SP. And this is something about the higher tier of 4 stars, is that sometimes you're not going to actually be using SP, which allows your 5 stars to use SP. Because if you have 4 units that keep on using SP, it's going to get rough, right? It's going to get rough. And it's going to go down very quick. So you're going to want to make sure that sometimes you don't use SP. And because of that, someone like Minase, who only needs to use it when really needing to, and then sometimes you might not even need to use the skill too, because then you have the ult, right? So it's like, it is very good. Her healing is her main part, but then the ult charge rate is a nice added bonus, but not necessary really. It's mainly the healing that we're kind of looking for to make sure no one dies. And also, when I start counting dupe 6, she's going to be insane. because she could revive an ally. So later on, I think she's going to get better. If we want to counter at dupe 6, I mean, I think she stays in A tier, but I don't have her dupe 6. I don't think many people do. So, you know, there is that. But, you know, just in general, she is very good. And for some reason, like the kind of manga style on her with like the face and how they kind of have it looks really good on her. I actually like really like her design, and I barely remember who she is. Now, the second 4-star is going to be Hoshina. So why I really like him, there's a couple of reasons. He works with the whole game. Also, just keep in mind this dupe 1, Battle Buddies crit rate 20%, works insanely well with Reno, because he, with the weapon especially, 62% crit rate. Then he has 15% crit rate here. Then Hoshina is basically making it that this ult is going to be like a guaranteed crit, right? So it's like, when you consider that, it's kind of insane how he works with just that. But there's other things, right? If you use this skill too, it gives single target and blast damage dealt. Now, blast damage, to my understanding, is basically the adjacent damage. I could be wrong, let me know. But even if it isn't, it helps Reno quite a lot because, of his skill 2 being insane, ridiculously high. Then his ult gives speed to the Battle Buddy. And then Battle Buddy, if he does use a skill 2 or ult at 1 SP or less, speed and crit damage. So you're going to get double speed, I think. Should be. I haven't verified by using it on the ult as much, but this crit damage is the big part, especially for someone like Reno. And then also normal damage is going to be better for more other units. And then this is where it comes along that he's also good for other units like Kaiju, right? Because he's full single target, right? So keep that in mind. And yeah, so this is a blast attack. So there you go. Hoshina helps out with both Reno's skill 2 and ult. So I didn't even see that. Damn. But yeah, it says blast attack right there. So personally, Hoshina is kind of insane to help basically the whole game, right? If you keep in mind, he buffs Reno, Kafka, Kikoru, and also Mina, and then also Narumi. And I guess you could say Isao, but it's like, it's just like Hoshina is really good for most of the 5-stars. And then he's giving the buffs, then he gives speed, then he gives crit damage, then he gives speed, and then he gives extra normal attack damage, which for Kafka in particular is actually quite good, because you do want to, I like using it, because it also has the taunt, so that's decent, but not anything too crazy. But mainly having that crit rate is just so free on that dupe 1 that I love it. Now, does he have anything else? Follow-up is not bad. What is this? Oh, dude. Yeah, he gives a bunch of speed. It's great. Him and Reno work very well together. And obviously, since I'm a Reno dupe 1, it's quite nice because Reno also has his own amount of crit damage. So it's like I'm having a lot of fun with these two together with just that dupe 1 on Hoshina. And that makes up A tier, right? So these are kind of like the best units, right? You could basically, I would say, honestly, if you have these 8 units, you're basically just going to just mollywop Fierce Battle for the most part. But now we're getting to other units that are also, I would say, did not mean to show that we're getting to units that are like also kind of good, but not amazing. So first of all, Hoshina, my problem is that AoE is not that needed right now because blast attacks basically get 3 units anyway. So it's like AoE, you're kind of getting lower damage, but it's like for what, right? Because like if you check it, yes, the main target gets damaged more, but that's kind of better because usually there's one enemy sometimes that has more HP. So you kind of need that in some cases. I don't like pure AoE. And then sure, he has his ult at single target, but it's like, I think outside of it, he's a little weak, and it's not like high enough for me to like really be too impressed, but his damage is definitely up there. I'm just like, I think it's mainly that skill too, that it's like, it's not that crazy. And it's like, I don't know, I kind of rather either one thing or the other, unless you're like Hikaru, because like her damage is good and she applies that debuff. He's going to be doing a lot of attacks, so it's very possible my opinion of him does go up. But for right now, I think that just because you're kind of relying on that ult for him to do a lot of damage, it's like I'm kind of like indifferent to his kit, right? I think he's a solid B tier, and that's kind of where I'm placing him. And then we got, I'm pretty sure her name is Shinonome. It's kind of a, I'm starting to remember it because it's kind of complicated to say her name, but basically she's full AoE. I don't think that's too good, right? I just don't. Like, full AoE is kind of bad. I'm just like, why, right? Why? Like, just make it adjacent for, like, unless we start seeing like 5 enemies, I just don't think it's going to be that crazy. So it's like, there's a lot of things that are reliant in her kit, like you have to destroy the well, like here, you have to destroy the PLT and then you advance next action, but it's like, What if you don't, right? Also, like 84% on ult is crazy. Like, her skill 2 damage is almost as high as her ult, so it's like her ult isn't really that mandatory. But it seems like you're basically trying to spam that skill 2, but the multiplier isn't really that high, so it's like, I don't know. I'd rather adjacent units over that, personally. Now, we're actually, like, they're okay, but they're not amazing. Now we're going to get to the 4 stars that I think are actually really good in terms of B tier. Like, these are still usable. First off, Mina. Mina actually is pretty nice. So if we go down to her here, right? This buff, morale, you only need to use it once, and then after that, like I said, it's one of those things. You don't need to use much SP. And keep in mind, B tier units, they're still good. They're still usable, right? If you use them, you're still going to be getting through content. What's nice is that the morale, whenever an ally has morale, right, and you use your skill 1 or ult, it's going to give an attack boost for the turn. So basically, you only need to use this and keep on reapplying it. But besides that, you're going to be saving up on SP, which is very nice. So I really like how that works, where it's like she kind of has this attack buff. And sure, there's also target damage and combat skill damage, but it's like, you know, not like necessary. I think it's more so that attack buff that's permanent is very nice. But the combat skill damage could definitely be good for someone like Reno. If you don't have like Hoshinar somehow, if you don't have them, then there is that, right? Mina is pretty good for that. Now next up, these are 2 units I actually like. Bro, I'm telling you, they look so identical. But first of all, let me not mix them up. Let me find the correct icon. But where is it? Oh god, here it is. So first of all, we got Rio. So why he's good is kind of because you don't need to use much. He has a permanent attack buff, which I kind of like. And that kind of allows you to where you don't really need to use the skill too much. You're kind of just reliant on the skill 1 and then the ult. So he's basically a unit to let you get a lot of SP, which I like. And then he has a start of turn attack buff. I just like this permanent attack buff. I think it's decent enough to where also alongside the speed and damage dealt for AoE is quite nice. It is quite nice. Did he have? No, I guess it's another unit. Sometimes I kind of mix it up, but I'd say the ult being like that, and also because you don't need to use the skill 2, there is some advantages to that personally. To where like this permanent attack buff is quite nice. Now, if you want to consider him C, sure. I think that he does have his own merits because of this attack buff. Because you can't just have 4 DPS units, right? The main reason is also because, like, you know, you got to have someone to kind of buff, but not take SP at the same time. And having someone who's not taking SP while doing a buff like this, I think is the advantage to a unit like this. Now, this guy, which let's go find out his name together, because I don't really remember his name. Kota Tachibana. He is a bit different. So this guy, you do want to use the skill 2. This is going to be more for bosses not taking damage, right? If you're on like one of the, what do they call them? I kind of forgot. It's here, giant class Kaiju. If you're on something like that, it's going to be quite nice to have this attack minus, especially if it's like really difficult with the unit like Isao. You have a bit of damage reduction, and then the attack minus could definitely be good. Now the biggest thing is that he has the freeze, which is really huge, as we know with Reno. I really like that freeze. Delays the action order, right? So I think that is actually very nice. Then he also like has a shield for himself, I'm pretty sure, right? Let me like double check. Yeah, he does. So I like that attack minus. I think Kota is pretty good. It's mainly more of a kind of unit that I'm putting in B because he's kind of more of a sustain, right? Kind of helping you take less damage. And, you know, in the later floors, you're going to need units like these. At least for right now, right? Like, this is why I'm saying it's like more of a week 1 tier list, but I definitely think that he has some value for the week 1. Now we have Izumo, and why he's quite good is because he works very similar to the other guy. He has the attack minus, right? For 3 turns. It's a bit lower value. Now, what he does also, instead of a stun, is he lowers the enemy's speed after attacking every time, or has a chance to. So if you give this guy a lot of effective rate, he's actually going to be quite annoying with that speed lower. It's 6%, right? So it's not that crazy. That's why he's kind of in C tier, because it's like he only really has an attack minus, and the speed, it's 6%, right? Like maybe if it was like a PvP game, like this would be kind of good, but like 6% is not going to be good enough for me to put him in B tier, which is why I kind of rathered how Kota worked, right? With that stun. I think the stun also delaying the action order is kind of what I personally rather, and he's also kind of tanky, so there is that. Now, next up, we have Kafka. Now, Kafka is considered dupe 6, right? Which is why he's in C tier. The main reason is because, like, he has it's free, right? It's free. You're going to be able to get him dupe 6. So because of that, he's going to have all these extra dupes, which I think people are going to definitely like. And he does some decent damage, right? It's not bad. Let me actually show it. So like he's gonna get a bunch of things, and then afterwards, like his damage is not gonna be that bad. He has the AoE, which is a bit unfortunate, but like overall, I think that with like what he's gonna be having with his like increased stats, and then this like 336 ult is definitely gonna be quite high for level 1 too, right? Like I think that's gonna end up being like 500% about. Yeah, it seems like it's gonna be 500%. So like especially considering he's gonna be max duped, he's like not gonna be that bad. I don't think he like pairs to like other units, but it's definitely not going to be horrible. The only thing is there might be a lot of build up time, which is the one thing, because you have to ult and then ult again, so it's like that's the kind of only thing. And then we got for our last unit, we got Baldy. So basically Baldy here is going to be decent. He has poison and then a stun, right? So like the stun is decent. I do think I kind of like a stun, so you know, there we go, right? That's going to be C tier. And then we got D tier, right? These are kind of like bottom of the barrel, so I'll explain them very quickly. These are units I remember checking, and they're like they're kind of So first of all, we got this Reno, and he's not really doing much, right? He's kind of just doing basic damage. His thing is like effect res minus. That's kind of it. Now the Tai Nakanoshima, right? Fire girl right there is burning. It's kind of all she's doing. Not really that crazy, not gonna lie. For a 4-star, you don't really want that. So I'm not really too heavy on her at all, really. Now the third guy, Kagaragi, he's gonna be putting Wind Bite, which is another DOT. Now that's kind of it. It's kind of it. He's basically there to try and do damage, but you know, I don't think it's gonna work out that well for him. And then we got Baldy Hasegawa. Now he, I think, has a stun. Yeah, so he has a stun on his skill too. I'm gonna put him up actually. Yeah, I'm putting him up in C because it's on the skill too, which is what you have to keep in mind, is that you could keep on stunning with that skill too. So I actually think there's definitely a value there. And then afterwards we got Kikoru, which she's kind of just doing damage, which once again, not the craziest. Only really works for Kafka because he's max duped too. Like I'm considering him max duped, so there is that. But yeah, besides that, that's kind of gonna be it. I do want to kind of go over some of the dupes for some of the previous units. If there are any good ones, let me pause and come back. Yeah, now besides Hoshina, like besides the 2 and 8 here, there's not really many dupes from the 4-stars that are too good. It's kind of funny. Like I don't know what exactly they were doing with that, because it's like very balanced to where I feel like these two just feel much better than the rest. But it's kind of funny. So yeah, that's why they're in A tier. Now in B tier, I mean, they kind of serve different roles, right? Because these are the B tier DPS, these are the B tier kind of support. So it's like a bit different. But in general, these are like the top 8 units essentially. Like it's kind of funny to kind of see, but that's basically the tier list. Let me know what you agree, disagree with. I went kind of in depth on explaining the kits, so I hope this could also be used as kind of a breakdown, kit breakdown. So that's going to be it. Thank you guys so much for watching. Like and subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next one. Bye-bye.